Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Reverend Kenny here, and it's a wonderful day to be alive. It's a great day to be sharing in what the Lord is doing. And on this Wednesday night, I wanted to just come and give you a brief word of encouragement. This is Wednesday's Word right here at Third Baptist Church. Invite a friend to join us right here every Wednesday night at 7:30 as we share in a brief word of encouragement to help us sustain and be maintained throughout the days that we are currently facing. There's a story in the scriptures in Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 5 through 9, that highlights for us the sort of dynamic that exists today in our culture. Because if we survey the landscape of our land in the midst of this trying time and this coronavirus situation, there are two camps that we find. One camp is the camp where people are trusting in the opinions and the advice of other people, and then there is the other camp where people are placing their trust in Almighty God. Now, don't get me wrong, we need experts, we need persons who are knowledgeable in their particular areas of expertise. We need those persons who have been trained and educated to provide us sound information and sound guidance and sound judgment and wisdom on how we ought to proceed. But at some point in the process, we have to make a distinction of whether or not we're going to trust in what the experts say or if we're going to trust in what Almighty God says. In Jeremiah chapter 17, verses 5 through 9, there's a little story in there, a parable, if you will, a simile, if you will, about two trees, one tree, one shrub. One is planted in the desert. It really has no life. It's in the desert. It's in a dry place. It's unproductive, yields no fruit, has no companionship. And then there is a tree that is planted by the river's edge. And when you look at the storyline in Jeremiah, the one thing you have to understand, and you learn that by your study of it, is that the tree, there's a verb in there, verb that says the tree was transplanted, which means it was relocated from one situation to another situation. It was relocated from one condition to another condition. It was relocated from one place to another place. And that's very important because all of us in this life, at some point we have to make a decision about whether or not we are gaining and reaping the true rewards that we desire for our lives in the line that we might be currently standing in right now. There's a shrub that roots don't go deep, and it's in a barren place, in an unproductive place, in an unfruitful place, and it yields no harvest. Conversely, there's a tree that's planted by the river's edge. Its roots grow deep. It never is fearful of the drought when it comes. It's never bothered by the heat. Its leaves are always green. It simply means that that tree that's planted by the river's edge will always have life flowing through it because it's connected to the source of life. And therein is the challenge for you and for me, that in this day and time, in this season of our lives, when it seems to be easy to take and heed and hold on to and trust the advice of the experts, really realizing that at the end of the day, only God knows the ultimate outcome for your life and for mine. Can I clue you into a little secret? This whole pandemic that we're experiencing now is not new to Almighty God. It's not new to God. It didn't catch God off guard. It didn't take God by surprise. And God is fully capable and prepared to handle whatever the crisis is that we now face in our lives. So there are two trees, one shrub planted in the desert, roots don't grow deep. Then there's a tree planted by the riverbank. And if you know anything about trees and roots, you know that it does not take a lot of work to pull up a root, a tree or shrub that has shallow roots. Shrubs have root systems that don't normally go deep into the ground. They go across the surface of the ground, and that's really how some of us operate in our lives. We trust things on the surface. We become caught up. We become we put all our faith in things on the surface. And then when you put your faith and your trust in surface things, you are easily uprooted during the time of chaos and confusion. Then there's the tree that roots grow down deep. And if you know anything about a tree again, you know it takes some work to pull a tree up out of the ground. And in this story that Jeremiah paints for us, he paints for us the picture because he's talking about a community of people, God's people who have put their trust in idol gods, who put their trust in military alliances. In other words, they have put their trust in things that don't hold any substance, and they put their trust in things that appear to have some validity and some security in them. Can I tell you a little secret? Only God can give you the security in this life that you're longing for. No profession, no group, no clique, no club, no money, no friends. Nothing can give you the security that you're looking for in this life except Almighty God. So therein are the two trees. One shrub in the desert has no root system, does not flourish. Then there is the tree planted by the river's edge. And this has to be kept in the context for what it is, because we're talking here about what it means to trust in God. And then Jeremiah gives us two reasons why it's important for us to trust in God. And I just want to give you point one tonight and come back on next week and I'll give you part two of this. But put the first part I want to leave you with tonight is the idea that when you're planted in God, you have a durability to be able to handle all of the situations that come about in life. When you think about a tree that roots grow deep into the ground, roots will always find water, which means they will always find the nourishment they need to be able to endure whatever situations come in their lives. When you are planted in God, when you put your trust in God, and your roots grow deep in God and you begin to grow in God, then God provides you the ability. God makes it such that you're able to withstand the pressures of life, the unexpected changes that life brings to all of us. God enables you to be able to stand up under that pressure, stand up under that load, and to be able to survive whatever comes your way. And nothing in this world is more important than being able to endure or outlast or stand up under the pressures of life. And right now, pressures are coming to all of us from all different angles. We've got pressures coming from the left, from the right, from the middle. We've got pressures coming from behind us. We've got folk trying to tell us what they think we ought to do. People trying to tell you what you should be doing. But at the end of the day, you have to be the one to stand up under the load. And you cannot stand up under the load of this life without a real relationship with Almighty God. I don't mean a surface kind of thing where when things are good, you're good. But when things get bad, you're torn apart. I'm talking about a real abiding relationship that allows you to stand like a tree when the winds start blowing. Stand like a tree when trouble comes your way. And God makes it able for you to endure the challenges of life. At some point in this journey, you've got to act like you're the Energizer Bunny Rabbit, and that's what God does, because you can say he keeps going and going and going and going and going, and that's what God does. God gives us the capacity to keep going and going and going and going and going when life seems to tell us you're not going to make it. So I want to encourage you on this Wednesday night. I want to encourage you that as you hold on to the reality of what's going on in your life, grab hold to a relationship with Almighty God. Ask yourself, am I properly planted in my relationship with God? I'm not, because right now, what separates real, honest, faithful people and those people who are tied to churches, you can't get to church right now. You can't run to a building right now. And what's going to really determine whether or not you're anchored in God is whether or not you have a real relationship with God. And I just believe that's why all this is happening to us right now. Not to discourage us, not to frighten us, not to make us fearful, but to cause us now to cultivate a real relationship with God. It's good to have a church to go to, but what happens when you can't get to the church house? It's good to be able to have your favorite prayer partner that you can get to, but what happens when you can't get to them and you're forced to practice social distancing? That's when it's important for you to have your own root system developed and cultivated in Almighty God. But I heard my grandma say, Mama may have and Papa may have, but blessed be the child that's got his own. So I want to encourage you, my brother, my sister. I want to encourage you that as you continue in this journey of faith, I want to encourage you to cultivate your own root system in Almighty God. Let your roots go down deep, that you might have a relationship with God. And the first thing you're going to learn is that God will give you a durability in this life, that you will be able to handle and stand up under the pressures of life, and God will see you through. I want to encourage you, be encouraged, be strengthened, Be faithful, be committed, but more importantly, above anything else, make sure your roots are growing down deep, that you and God might have a real relationship. I'll talk to you next week. God bless you and peace.